What we have put up here, which is probably not a bad idea, is some faculty space. Keep an eye on those older kids. So faculty dining would be up here. It's 408 square feet. And if one wanted, again, similar to what we were thinking about for the entrance off the library to create a reading terrace, one could create an outdoor dining space for the faculty, and they could use in good weather. And the classroom sizes are on your sheets. They're all in excess of 9,000. There are a couple that are in excess of, 900, and there are some that are in excess of 1,000. Okay. Let's see. I mentioned the site plan. It's large enough to allow for various scenarios. You can have the bus. Let's go back to the site plan. Okay. You could do a bus turnaround, and we have a sketch of that from the architect. A bus turnaround here. Correspondingly, you could do a bus turnaround over there. Certainly it's tight. You'd have to widen the driveway from the high school considerably to make that turn possible. I personally prefer just keeping the bus scenario the way it is now and having the parent drop off on this side and getting them off of any thoroughfares or driveways. The plan would be then to put in plantings, trees, etc., to buffer the parking and the driveway to create a little greenery in that area. Okay. Now, I'm going to go on to so that's it for the walk through the school. I'm going to go into the costing. All right. Yeah. Now, the costing of the project is actually based, we relied pretty much exclusively on data. We recognize a lot of work has been done already on all of these projects, going back to 1995, 96, was TLCR's first feasibility study on the entire elementary school question. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel. We went back to the original feasibility study, looked at those. We looked most importantly at the most recent costing that was done by our own school building committee with TLCR and further validated by the estimators at Daedalus. So that was largely our basis for costing. We looked at their cost formulas and basically reapplied them. All of our costing, so all of the costing for the construction and the site work is based on costing formulas in the SBC's presentation from February 12th town meeting. We reviewed these costs with David Hart at McGinley and Hart, who said that they seemed reasonable, and let's just go with them. Okay, so I'll go through these, and the most important items I'll try to go into detail on. Let's start with general construction. The general construction costs are estimated to be at $8,052,000, and I need that just to show the detail. By the way, we don't have copies of all these handouts, but if anybody wants them, again, please just come up afterwards and leave your name and address, or if you have email, even better, we can email them, but certainly we're happy to make copies available. You have to look at the three parts of the construction. You have the original building, the 47 or 49. I give up. Is it 47 or 49? Do we have some? I don't know. It's late 40s, but the annex, and then you have the new addition. We took basically the cost per square foot cost off of the existing, the most recent feasibility study, and you just do the math. The original building is 19,390, the 47 addition is 19,910, and the new addition is 18,420. Okay, and that's how you arrive at the 8051, which we round 8.8, we round up to 8052. Okay, now I got to go back to the line items. Well, let's say the next line item is right here. Site work. Here it is. Okay. Site work is a bit more modest than that which was proposed at the February 12th town meeting. That's largely due to the fact that we blocked off the addition. Well, you did anyway, and carefully walked it off, and we're virtually 100% sure that we're not going to have to fiddle around with the existing septic system, which we all know was just put in a couple of years ago. And so that will not have to happen. We've put the new addition on basically flat ground, and we know there's no ledge or anything there. It's just basically go ahead with the building. So the possibilities of extensive site work are pretty minimal. The construction contingency we put in at a factor of 10%, based on Daedalus. That's the number they use. And I also ran this by David Hart and some other architects with whom I work on a regular basis, and they said, 10% of the general construction and site cost is a pretty good going figure, so we went with that. And that brings us to the subtotal of construction. The rest of the numbers, equipment furnishings, those two we took directly from the last go around with the feasibility study on the batch renovation. Consulting fees are down a little bit, and that is due to the fact that, and the soft costs are down a little bit. The 10% factor plus we are planning the scope of the project to be, worst case scenario, 18 months, middling scenario, 12 to 15 months, or sorry, 15 to 18 months, and best case, 12 months. Jim Alexander said, if you took the kids off site, you could do it. It would be doable. It would be easily doable with the right construction crews in 12 months. I ran it by some other architects who said 12 to 15 is kind of the norm. 15 to 18 if you go awry, but 24 months would be extreme. So we've brought the scale or the scope down to 18 months, which we feel gives us even some wiggle room. Assuming that we take the students completely off-site, which is probably the best way to go. Now, the reimbursable relocation costs, like, slide on that. No, right here. Okay, hang on to it so I have it in. How we arrived at this. The relocation, and we're going with the relocation plan that was devised by the school department, which would be to create a modular campus behind here, tie into the core facilities at the old Murphy School, Town Hall, put some other modulars in the middle school area, tie into the core facilities there, and so forth. Bottom line is that we're going with the same spec. The only thing is we went and got some other bids that came in from with a firm, I forget the name of it, IR Mobile Modular, Basking Ridge, New Jersey. They gave us a complete quote, and these are what they quoted, and includes everything: installation, hooking it up. You've got the plumbing, you've got the water, you've got the toilets, everything, and I'll show the diagrams of what they are proposing in a second. So not all of it is reimbursable. Obviously, you can get reimbursement from the state for the modulars. You can't get it for the installation costs. So we've factored that in. 18 months times 26 modular classrooms times 30,000 per month, et cetera. The math is there for you to see. Lease versus installation is on a 15 to 20 ratio. So we've broken out the reimbursable from the non-reimbursable costs. And then there's also the busing, obviously. Next line item, sorry to keep bouncing around. Okay, so you get to, so that's our reimbursable relocation cost of $540, other costs, reimbursable cost 0, so $12,899, and we still have the non-reimbursable cost for the relocation of $1,032,000. Oh yeah, before I go on, let me just show you the modulars. This is from IR. These are just schematics, but I can't even read. Bear with me. I need new glasses. Okay. So yeah, this is essentially the layout of 13 classrooms. You'd have to have 2 of these to get to 26. Okay, and this is sort of the elevation of the modular campus, so it would have to be built, if you will. This is just a sample. And it's funny, we're not the only ones dealing in modular cities around the country. I was reading another article, and I think it was also in ASU, where they're talking about the incredible surge in demand for modulars. Modular companies are going gangbusters now because of all of these problems that we're having with space needs, budget constraints. A lot of people are really opting not just to supplement their existing space with modulars or to create swing space, as we would be, for the time of a rehab of an existing school. Some of them are actually creating temporary schools out of modulars. I just thought I'd show you this. This was a cover story article in American School and University, and this is an ad for another modular company, Pullman Industries. When someone thinks of modular, you think of this. Well, this is what they've built. I mean, entire campuses. It's incredible. So, anyway, that's just a little side on that. Now, we go back to the rest of this is the reimbursement formula, and those who are on the SBC are familiar with this. You have your maximum reimbursable cost, which is 115 times the square footage, et cetera. The formulas are rather complex, but we're basically just going through the math. The reimbursement rate, which is important, is the one we figure is the best case right now under the government policies, 60.39%. That's what we went with in February. So we just stayed with all of that. And in the end, you get down to the principal plus interest cost to town, $12,286 for the Batcheldor. Okay? Now, looking at building to building, Swan Pond, Batcheldor, and they're not that far apart. We're talking a couple $100,000, $400,000 or whatever. And that's probably pretty reasonable. I think when I've sort of done benchmarks with other towns, I figured when we were talking a 60,000 square foot school, around that, when you added on the addition that was needed to bring our program up to par, 12 million is about the going rate. So this is something that I think is pretty much validated by other projects going on. The question is, what is the net cost to town? And obviously we can't, if we were to go off and build another school, the batch can't just sit empty. Something has to happen. If we're going to renovate it for reuse, which I know the town would do, which is the right thing to do by the building, you would still then, especially if it's going to be a public building, you would have to bring it up to code for ADA compliance, Americans with Disabilities Act. And that's a major commitment on the part of the town or anybody who's going to use the building. And I believe the SBC number was around $3 million to do that. I verified that also with David Hart. He said, yep, that's pretty much it. Minimally, if you're going to bring a building up to code, it's $3 million. It doesn't matter. 3 to 3.5 million. He felt 3.5 million was a more realistic figure, but we stayed with $3 million and added in the financing charge that would be required. So it's a factor of 0.9 on the appropriation amount, and then factored in state reimbursement. So the difference really in the two projects is that you have to do something with the other building. You've got fixed maintenance costs. Hopefully we'll go into cyclical maintenance programs, which I'm a proponent of, rather than deferred maintenance. And over the life of the building, you're going to add millions of dollars in additional costs to the town, because we've now added another building to the town's portfolio. Let's see, I just want to make sure. Regarding materials, I think we've gone over that a little bit. This plan, this costing, does include matching, putting brick on the new building, putting a hip roof on the new building, matching the masonry to the existing masonry, and otherwise using materials that are sympathetic to the context of the town center. This does not mean, I follow this stuff, and I'm sure the architects in the room know what I'm talking about. The Secretary of Interior is our standard bearer for determining what are the appropriate ways to renovate a building, restore a building, rehabilitate a building, etc. And this information is on nps.gov if you're interested in looking at it. National Park Service puts this information out. For a rehabilitation, which is what this would be, we would be adding a building onto an existing structure that has historic merit. You are allowed to be interpretive in your use of materials as long as they don't violate the rest of the building. So we could go with things like precast stone instead of making carvings. You can go with synthetic materials that simulate slate, or that at least don't fight the slate. So we could be looking at recycled rubber, cementitious shingles, you name it. There's lots of materials out there, I know about them because I see them at our show, and they're really, you know, they look great. So we will use materials